Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I had to completely change rooms. My computer crashed, nothing would work. There's been a little time lapse in our wiring and taping lab, but we're back. And this is where we were. You have your wires going straight down out of the calyx of your carnation. All right, and so now we're ready to tape. This is why we learned to tape. And so we will start taping right where the color meets the green here. And we have to be firm in how we put the tape on. So don't be worried about this being a delicate flower and that you're going to mess it up. You're not. They're much tougher than you think. And so what I'm trying to say is when you put this tape on, you have to really be pulling against the calyx, and you need to be pinching this whole thing together. So if the calyx, the green part, started out like this, as you're taping, it's going to be collapsing and it's going to turn out much thinner. You should be applying pressure as you're putting this tape on. And the other thing is you need to be pushing the tape away from your nose. And I don't think I said that earlier, but if you're trying to pull the tape towards you, it will never be tight enough. And so when you're taping, be sure you're pushing it away from you. And so same practice as we did with everything else with our Gerbera straw. Your strong hand is holding the tape, it's stretching it. Your weaker hand is following that hand, and it's pressing the tape against the flower. The tape against the stem, I should say, against itself. Try to keep your tape straight as you're coming down, meaning don't let it get all wrinkled up like that. Okay, keep your tape flat. And you'll go around a few times straight around. So the tape is sticking to itself around the thick part up here. All right. So I kind of went straight around on this part. But now I need to start angling down so I can come down the stem. So this is where you angle just like you did on your Gerbera straw. And you start pulling that downward. And you are going to keep taping until you come all the way down these stems. Oops. Or all the way down the wire, I should say. I don't tape to the end of the wire because when you get to about this point, you hold on tight to your tape up here on top. You take 2 fingers, and this is called stripping, and you strip, you pull down on that tape all the way down the wire. And what happens is that helps to take the excess tape off. And you know you're getting better at taping when you get to the bottom and there's not much excess. So like on the bottom here of mine, I just have that little hook of tape. But when you're starting out and you guys do it, you might end up having like an inch or 2 of tape coming off, and that's okay. That's part of learning. But as you get better, we don't want to waste material. That all costs money. And so the sign of someone who is taping well is you don't have a lot of excess coming off here. So you might find the toughest transition is the part I had a little trouble with here, right? Here's the thick part of the stem going to the wire, and see how I have a break right there? Well, we can't have that. That's not professional, and it's not strong. And so I'm going to go back with my tape, and I don't want to add a whole bunch. It's like a little Band-Aid here. I'm just going to put a little around that spot and really press it on there. Make it tight, but then as soon as I've repaired that spot, I'm going to rip it off. Don't then bring your tape all the way back down the stem, because then you're creating that weight and that bulk. All right, so ideally, when you're finished, it should be smooth. You shouldn't have a lot of wrinkles in it. You shouldn't have tears in it. It should be covered completely, all the way from the top to the bottom. And then what that allows us to do is to be the human being and decide what we want to do with this flower. Now, you could be the most creative person in the world, but if you don't have the mechanics behind you, If you don't understand how to manipulate flowers, you will not be able to make the presentation, the product that you eventually want. So for example, if I wanted this flower to completely face the customer like that, I could make a right angle out of that stem. If I wanted it to go straight up, I can make it do that. If I wanted it really, if I wanted a really severe bend to make it face downward, I can do that. And it's much lighter than it was when it was on the stem. So this is how you're going to wire and tape a flower that has a large flower head, like a carnation or like a rose. And so I'm not going to completely take apart this rose because I can use it in a design still. It's in good shape, but I'll show you. Same idea. Pretend I had taken off the stem, right? Here's my wire. I'm going to pierce the calyx of the rose straight across. Bend it down. And then I would just tape from above the wire down as far as I needed to. But not all flowers are shaped this way with a big flower head on one stem. We have some flowers that are smaller. This is called a mini carnation. So here's a standard carnation, and this is a mini. And this you would do the same way as what we just did with the carnation. Okay, this has a nice strong calyx, has a strong stem, and so we can do that pierce method and then tape down. But some flowers don't have that. This is a pompon, this is a pompon, and this is a pompon. Just different varieties of all the same type of plant. And they have this very thin stem and no real calyx between the stem and the flower itself, the flower head. And so if we were to put a wire through there, it would just break the stem. It wouldn't work well. So we need a different method. So what we do with a ray flower, and you have some of these in your bucket. So get another piece of paddle wire, again about 6 inches long. And what you're going to do is you're going to make a little hook. I'll put that up in front of a piece of paper so you can see it. Or here. See that? It's just like a little shepherd's crook. And then you take this end of the wire and you just go right in, go right into the center of the flower. As close to the center as you can get it. Now, if it's your lucky day, that comes straight through the stem, but we're not really worried about that. That would be very time consuming to sit here and try to get it through the stem. We're really just looking for support. And then you're going to pull this down until that little hook is just going to, if I can straighten mine out, make sure you make it kind of a tight hook. It's just going to disappear into the head of the flower. So you can't see where it is. And now I have this wire coming down the side of the stem. And so then I take my tape, and again, you're just going to tape where the flower head meets the stem. So you're going to go around a couple times, straight around, and then push it with your fingers. Don't worry about hurting the flower. And then you're going to go ahead and tape straight down all the way down the wire. Or like we said, almost to the end, and then strip it down all the way. Mine ended up with a big bubble. That's a bad demonstration day. That doesn't usually happen. Hold it at the top, strip it down. Okay. Now I did that pretty quickly, but you have the skills and you know what to do now. And so if you need to just pause and take as much time as you need to get that wired and taped, you should practice that. And so your next step will be to take these flowers that we've wired and taped, and you'll watch the next video and you'll learn how to make a boutonniere. after you make all the boutonnieres I'm requiring of you, then you should really look at, do you have anything left? And you might not, but anytime you have anything left in a bucket, because this won't be the last time you take materials home, anytime you have anything left, you should wire and tape. You should practice, because we can't just do this 3 times and think, okay, we've got it. Our hands have to get that muscle memory. They have to know what they're supposed to do, and your brain and your hands have to work together. So that's what I mean about not wasting materials. You should never be throwing anything away. You saw some of the flowers I worked with today were really sad, but I could still practice my skills no matter what they look like. And so you have to get out of the mindset of I'm trying to create something beautiful all the time. At this point in the class, what you're really trying to do is get technique down. And we don't actually care so much about if you're going to be able to give this to someone, or you're going to wear the boutonniere, or will you have a pretty vase on your table. I need you to make that secondary. If you want to do that, go to the grocery store, buy yourself a couple bunches of flowers and go to town. But what I'm trying to teach you with your materials are skills. And so I want you to always be looking at everything you have before you throw it away and say, can I do something with that? Can I learn something with that? And you need to practice wiring and taping. If you're out of materials that I gave you, then talk to your parents and say, what in our yard can I demolish? No, just prune it nicely. But what can I use? And go out and find something that has a stem. And if you find something with a stem, then you have the skills to wire and tape. It doesn't even have to have a flower head on it. If you can pierce through that skin and stem and tape down, or if you can go through the rays of a flower, the top of a ray flower, do that. Before I leave you today, I wanted to just do a little flower ID because I have flowers in front of me and I can, so it's a good opportunity. So as we said, this is a pom-pom, and this one is called a daisy pom-pom. So really, when people come to florists and say, I want daisies, we don't use those for the most part in the floral industry, because some flowers last and some don't. This is actually a type of mum, and it will last a very long time. And so what we do is we find a mum that looks like a daisy, and we would use that, and it would be much more successful. So this is a daisy pom-pom. This is a cushion pom-pom. Now that's shaped. Just think that's like a little cushion to put your head on, this way. Okay, cushion pom-pom, straight across, nice little pillow there. This one is a button pom-pom, like a button that would go on your shirt. And they're always small and they're always round like that, so they kind of resemble a button. We talked about carnations. That's a standard carnation. Hold on. Let there be light. Okay, that's a standard carnation, and that's a mini carnation. Different sizes, different purposes. This is safflower. And safflower is also an excellent livestock feed. I don't know how to show my face in the flower. And so if you go out, if you have livestock and you go out and look at your feed tag on your bag, you might find safflower in it sometimes. And so this is really an all-around crop for us in agriculture. We can use safflower oil. We can use the flower itself for floral design. And then we can use different parts of the plant in livestock feed. And so you might say, well, that's not very pretty. I don't know. But remember, art is not always beautiful. Sometimes it has meaning. So like if we put this in a Thanksgiving arrangement, this looks like fall. It looks like harvest. It looks like the abundance of agriculture, which is what we try to see in our pumpkin designs and our Thanksgiving fall type of designs. So every plant has a potential place in floral design. This is a hydrangea. This one happens to be pink. It should not have these brown tinges. Again, it took me longer to get to these videos through distance learning than I thought it would. So it's a little on the older side, but you get the idea of what the flower looks like. And these are thirsty. You need to keep them in water, or I have some ways to process them that I can teach you so that they'll last. As you can see, as big as my hand, right? So big, beautiful flowers make an impact. They also come in white, they come in blue, they come in purple, and this is a particular flower that you can tint. We don't call painting flowers spray painting in floral design. We call it tinting. And you can use several different colors, and they're picked up really well through this fluffy flower to change the color of it. So again, if you wanted it to look like harvest time, fall time, maybe you could tint it a few different colors to make that happen, or just enjoy its natural, beautiful color. And then finally, last thing for this little lab, this is called Misty. And I wanted to show this one to you because this is not a color found in nature. This is a dyed plant, and blue is the least common color in flowers that we would use for floral design. And so I had a friend who needed light blue flowers, and so I found these, but this doesn't happen in nature. Light blue is one of the hardest colors for us to come by, but this is a filler flower, very delicate, very small. We would use it to fill spaces when we were making an arrangement. All right, so you're going to go on next. I don't know if it'll be in class or it'll be on your own. Just take a look at the schedule, but the next video will be on boutonnieres, and you'll be ready to put those together now that you know how to wire and tape. And remember to always take every opportunity you can to improve your skills.